Welcome, friends, to another episode of Living Springs Retreat Live. I really enjoy doing these programs live. We're going to interact and we get to hear your questions, and you get to hear from our special guest today. I told you we've got a bunch of interviews coming up, so you want to be there Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And our guest, of course, who you'll be hearing from shortly, is Chad Cruiser of Health and Homestead YouTube channel. And we'll be talking about natural remedies. So we just welcome each and every one of you from wherever around the world you are listening from today. And Living Springs Retreat, you're welcome here digitally, even though you can't be locally at the Living Springs Retreat physically. But I'm thankful for this opportunity to talk about some important themes relating to natural remedies or just natural approaches to reverse things that are afflicting us, from migraines to diabetes to all sorts of things. First things first, our sponsor is none other than Revitagard, which you heard about last time. And since I talked to you about this, I used this on my throat and I woke up in the morning not feeling well. It was one of those things where you're like, oh no, I'm going to be fighting something for days. It's coming on. You drink plenty of water, you get plenty of rest, you live a natural, healthy lifestyle to begin with, and then you do immune boosting supplements like Revitagard throat spray, or we got the sinus over there at the Living Springs store as well. And I did all of this, and by the end of the day, I felt great, went to sleep, and never got sick. So we don't diagnose, treat, or cure anything, of course, but order your bottle and have this ready to go in advance. Your Revitagard throat spray. It tastes sweet and minty. Man, I love this stuff. So I hope you also get supplied with all the things that you need during this cold and flu season that's coming up to fight those things that are coming your way. Let's go right to Chad. We've got a whole list. We want to help people with a bunch of things: mental health, headaches, the greatest disease afflicting people like diabetes and heart disease. Chad, can you start us off with how you've seen and what the research says about how depression and anxiety can be overcome? And all of these, we're going to try to see, is there a better way than necessarily going the traditional, standard, mainstream pharmaceutical route? Chad, tell us about depression and anxiety. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, it's amazing since COVID, we have seen skyrocketing levels both of anxiety and depression. It's kind of gone through the roof in all ages, but even more so in young people. And we're going to look at just a few quick things. That one of the things that this is not the answer to depression. Now, there's a number of things that we can do naturally in our lifestyle, like eating well, by eating a lot of high antioxidant foods, which are plant foods. So if you're eating a diversity of fruits, whole grains, some seeds and nuts, and these kind of things, if you're eating a diversity of those, high quantities of those, research has actually shown that for every serving that you eat in a day, two studies, one out of the United States, one out of Australia, has shown that for every serving you eat of fruit or vegetable in a day, it will actually incrementally increase your level of well-being or happiness. And the fascinating thing is it increases happiness that day, but it also forecasts how happy you'll be the next day. So very interesting in that respect, but also exercise is extremely important. And getting out in the sunshine, especially at least for us in the northern parts of the world right now, we're coming toward the end of summer. And because of that, we should be getting the sun as we can. I'm not getting sunburned, but so there's many things we can do. They've shown that just simply drinking, people who drink 5 glasses of water a day are they are 3 times more likely to say that they are happy than people who drink 1 or less glasses of water a day. So that's something super simple. And you might think, oh, that's great. I drink like 8 cans of Coke a day, so I must be great then, right? But the research actually shows the opposite, that drinking soda actually lowers levels of happiness. So these are just some lifestyle things that we can do. But one thing you can do as a natural remedy, what you're typically thinking of as some kind of natural remedy, something like lemon balm. This will not reverse depression, but it can potentially lower levels of stress or anxiety. And they did research, and they looked at specifically patients, giving them some lemon balm. And the reason I share this study is kind of important, because you often think, I'm the kind of person, my wife says, I'm the kind of person that says, if one is good, 10 is better. But that's actually not true when it comes to things like natural remedies. So the researchers did a placebo-controlled double blind crossover study. That means that people would try two different things and then you would try both of them to see how you're impacted by it. They gave people either 300 milligrams or 600 milligrams of lemon balm extract, and they also had a placebo. So you had these people trying various different things. And what they found, this is specifically giving it to them for stress, and they found that while taking 600 milligrams of lemon balm, they had an increase in calmness during a stressor, but they also had lower levels of alertness. So we're probably not wanting to lose our ability to be alert, where you're going to kind of be cloudy. But what they found was while taking the 300 milligrams of the lemon balm, they enhanced their speed in mathematical processing without lowering their accuracy. So, meaning the 300 milligrams had a benefit. They felt better, lower levels of stress, but it didn't negatively impact their alertness. So, once again, natural remedies can be very good for us. And so you might think, well, if they're good for me, then they're natural, so I can take as much as I want. But too much of a good thing can also be not so good for you. So something like 300 milligrams of lemon balm, very simple. You can make a tea out of lemon balm. I have some growing right outside my house right now. It's one of my favorite. I just love the smell. I go over there and I just rub my hands through it, smell it, and it just has such a fantastic smell. That's one thing. When it comes to depression, researchers have actually found, now I'm not, one of the things that people should not do is immediately just jump off of medication for depression. That could be very, very dangerous. If you were ever to get off, you'd want to work with your doctor, because it can cause serious side effects, people wanting to take their own lives. I'm not saying everybody, but that's why people have to work with their doctors if they're already on a depression medication. The research actually shows something fascinating, looking at all medications, all of the major medications that have been used for depression. One of the things that they found is that each form of depression medication compared head to head with placebo, what researchers discovered was that all forms of depression medication make you more likely to have future depression compared with placebo. What's placebo? It's basically a sugar pill. It's a pill that has no true efficacy. And the researchers discovered that all other forms of medication that were in this particular study, they all had an increase of depression. And now they may have a temporary benefit, but at some point it's more likely to make you depressed. Now, once again, don't just jump off, because that can be dangerous. But are there some things, natural things, other than the lifestyle changes like exercise, healthy plant-based diet, sunshine, water, rest? By the way, rest is one of the most important things you can do for depression. But I want to give you what we typically think of a natural remedy. And by the way, when I say rest, I want to share that with you, because people who consider themselves to be night owls have a 94% higher risk of having depression than people who are early risers and go to bed early. So one of the best things you can do for depression is get a good night's sleep and an early night's sleep. But I know often people, when they're thinking of natural remedies, you don't want to know about sleep and exercise. Okay, I'm going to give you an actual natural remedy that's been compared head to head to the drug medication. And that is specifically, the Latin name for this is Hypericum perforatum. Many people know of it as St. John's wort. St. John's wort is a beautiful little flower that grows in Europe, the United States. I haven't been to I've been to every continent except for Antarctica. But I know it grows for sure in Europe and throughout the United States, and even way in the northern regions. And I'm a believer that God often puts the remedy in the area that you need it the most. Now, in this case, they brought it from Europe because they knew it was so good, and now it just grows wild around the United States, even in the northern regions. And now, talking about St. John's wort, the Mayo Clinic, many people have heard of the Mayo Clinic. They have research on a mixture of black cohosh and St. John's wort for menopause symptoms. And they found that using both of them together, St. John's wort plus the black cohosh, actually work better than either one of them do alone. And I want to share with you some quick research on it, that St. John's wort versus placebo. They did a study of over 105 people with either placebo or 300 milligrams of St. John's wort. and 67% of the people taking St. John's wort lowered their depression versus 28 in the placebo group. Now, many people don't realize when they hear numbers like that, like 68, I mean, that's less than 70% of people. But that's still a majority of people. People think many drugs are like 100% efficacious, and very seldom do you have that. Many drugs will have like a 5, 10, 20% benefit. So 67% benefit is significant. But you say, but Chad, that's just placebo. But the great thing is, when it comes to St. John's wort, they've done over 29 different studies with over 5,000 different people. And they've compared St. John's wort to various drugs like selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors and also tetracyclic or tricyclic antidepressants. And what's fascinating about it is they've compared it head to head with one of the most popular drugs for depression, that's Prozac. And the Journal of Clinical Psychopharmacology reports on St. John's wort versus Prozac in a double-blind randomized placebo-controlled trial. And they found that St. John's wort was significantly more effective than both placebo and than both Prozac and placebo. And so something as simple, the great thing about it is you can also, I mean, I could go out, it grows all over my yard naturally here. I don't even need to plant it. It's just walk out and you see these beautiful yellow flowers out there. One of the ways that you can harvest it is you can cut a top third of the plant. You can put it in a bunch, tie it up with a little string and hang it upside down. And what will happen is it will end up drying out, and you can use some of that like a tablespoon, put it in water, and you can make a tea, or you can just buy supplements. But often supplements don't actually have what they claim in them. So those are just a few things that you could try for anxiety or stress and depression.
It's interesting that it's the same solution for all of those mental health challenges. It's those things you mentioned at the beginning that are easy, that anybody can do. They're free. Oh, they're not easy. You have to develop the self-discipline to do it and go to bed on time. That was incredible. You cut your depression risk in half if you just go to bed early. There was a 94% increased risk if you're going to bed late versus if you go to bed early.
That's
So
right.
if you reverse those numbers, you just dropped your risk in half just by going to bed on time.
Incredible.
Not to mention the other, the sunlight, the water, the nutrition. So with every serving of fruit and vegetables you add to your daily diet, you get a measurable boost of happiness. I mean, that's incredible. And then these herbs, when put head to head with those other things that we want to be careful to talk about on platforms like this, which you did a great job. But I think people know what we're talking about with the pharmaceuticals. And God's provided us what we need. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A lot of people are struggling with pain, arthritis, things like that. What are some solutions in that realm?
So that is now, once again, it also can have to do with the cause. What is causing the pain? Now, often people have arthritis. They have various issues, different forms of arthritis, like osteoarthritis. And what is causing it? Sometimes the cause for those individuals is a food allergy. So if you are allergic to something, it may be causing achy joints, or if you're eating just a junk food diet. If you're eating junk food diet, some people, we had a man come to a seminar that we were putting on in the state of Arkansas. This man was about 40 years old. So I'm now probably older than he was at the time. And this man had such terrible arthritis that his hands were like, he could not, when I would shake his hand, you would shake a fist, because he could not open his fingers at the age of about 40. And it was, devastating. You can imagine to live in such a painful state for this man. And he came to our seminar, and we put him on a very simple diet. And the seminar itself was a seminar we were doing to teach people habits or basically how to find victory over bad habits. So lifestyle changes that you can make that can make it easier to overcome bad habits. And so we were putting people on a very short temporary diet, where the first day you would just eat fruit. The next day you would add vegetables to your diet, and then it would go on from there. And within 2 or 3 days, he came back and he said all of his pain was gone. And he was thinking, but man, I'm probably getting not much protein. People are so terrified, like they're going to die in 3 days from not getting any. You could not eat anything for, if you are overweight, which this man was slightly overweight. You could go for 2 weeks just drinking water, and you would have zero protein, and you would be fine. You'd be totally fine. But people are terrified if I go 3 days without enough protein, it's going to kill me. But it's not. You'll typically feel great. Your mind will feel clearer going on a fast. But nevertheless, so he did this, and within 2 or 3 days, all of his pain went away. But then he thought, man, I'm probably not getting enough protein. So he just went and ate some chicken, and he said all the pain came back. And sometimes in certain people, these high protein diets or meat-based things can actually cause the problems with the pain. Now, it's not always that. It can be other things. For some people, it may be, for people with osteoarthritis or certain arthritises, sometimes they do better actually without gluten. And now many people will do fine with it. I'm not here to argue either way. I do fine with it. Many people don't, but basically the research shows about 6% of people struggle with it. People can have their own thoughts here either way. But you may, if you have any form of arthritis, you could try going without it for a month and see if you feel any better. And if you do, well, that may be it. But for other people, it may be a random allergy. A friend of mine took he was having tremendous pain where he could hardly walk, and he's way too young to have something like this. And his mother-in-law was having issues too. For her, they did a blood test. She ended up having, I think it was the IgG antibody test. She ended up having allergy to carrots. Now, that doesn't mean carrots are bad for humanity. For most people, they're phenomenal. She cut the carrots out of her diet, and she was like a changed human being. So sometimes it's an allergy, but so what is causing it? Another thing that can cause pain in the body, like arthritis and so forth, can be mold in the house. So if you do have mold, you want to rectify that situation, have that remediated and dealt with, and often the pain will go away. But these are not what you're looking for. What you're looking for remedies. What are some things that we can do? Now, there's some simple things that you can do for the pain themselves. Basically, in many plant foods, often what they found is people who go on full plant-based diets, they end up getting about the same amount of pain-killing or analgesic effect in their diet from a substance that's in plants, salicylic acid. And these salicylates are found in plant foods. If you eat a high quantity of fruits and vegetables, you'll actually often be getting as much salicylic acid as you would be getting in like a Tylenol in a day. So you should be, by eating a bunch of plant foods, high plant food diet, all the antioxidants, the salicylic acid that comes in these things can actually lower pain in and of itself. But now I want to talk about one of the most powerful things. We just had somebody today, my wife just showed me, somebody wrote to us about what I think is one of the most powerful things for pain. And this is not so much of a pain reliever as something that heals the pain in the body. And that is something called comfrey root. It's, to me, one of the top 3 natural remedies that exist in my mind. Everybody's got their opinion on what are the most powerful ones, but comfrey, whether comfrey leaf or comfrey root, and the root of the comfrey plant has been used as a remedy for centuries. And it grows in Europe. It's native in Europe, and it grows throughout the United States. But that's because, once again, as the Europeans moved over here, they brought it along, and now it grows in the United States, and I'm very thankful for that. I've also that growing right outside my front door. And the Latin name for comfrey is I grow together. It means I grow together, because comfrey has been historically used for bones to actually grow together. I have a friend, just a quick side note on this, not pain, although it would have been painful, but yeah, I guess it would be pain too, but she had broken her toe. And I should call her more of an acquaintance, but she broke her toe. She went to the doctor, and yep, sure enough, x-ray showed she broke her toe. And, there was only so much they could do, but she came back sometime later and it wasn't healing. And the doctor said, look, your toe's not healing. If it doesn't heal, we're going to have to do surgery. And she said, okay, how about this? Before we do surgery, I'm going to go home and I'm going to wrap it in comfrey. And she used the root. The leaves work also, but the root is even more potent. And so she took some dried comfrey root, wrapped around her toe, probably get it wet so that it could try to actually have transdermal work. It could pass through the skin into the body. And she wrapped it up. And within 2 days, she was like, hey, my toe healed. So she goes back to the doctor. She's like, my toe healed. He's like, no, it didn't. And she's like, yes, it did. I know it did. You need to do an x-ray. And he's like, no, we just did one. We're not going to do that. And she's like, listen, I know that it healed. Can you do an x-ray? And he's like, no, we're not going to do that. They went back and forth. He finally said, okay, I'll do it. So they do an x-ray, and he comes back and he's like, it healed. And he said, I wouldn't have believed that it could work transdermally. We're not told that something like this could work, but he actually was open. He said, now if I had a patient who didn't want to go through surgery, I would be willing to suggest that to them. So with things like broken bones, research has been done on sprains. You can put it on there. You can make a gel out of, I have a video of how to make it on my YouTube channel called Health and Homestead. You can grow the stuff. You can use either the leaves or the roots. And in the one that we show in the video, it's the leaves. It's even potent in the leaves, but it's even more potent in the roots. And check it out. And Health and Homestead, our YouTube channel. But they did a study on back pain. A placebo-controlled, double-blind, randomized trial was done with either placebo or comfrey cream on patients with back pain, either upper or lower back pain, either one. And those who took the placebo lowered their pain by about 37% in 5 days. Now, keep in mind, maybe it would have just felt better because it was placebo, so maybe they thought it would, and it did. Or, sometimes in 5 days, your back pain starts getting better. I mean, that just simply happens. But what was amazing was in the group that took the comfrey cream, 95.2% of them had lowered their pain, they lowered their pain rather by 95.2%, meaning almost 100% reversal within 5 days. And the pain began to lower by 33% within 1 hour. And so the fascinating thing about comfrey either root or comfrey cream, these kind of things, or even the leaves, when applying it, it is not only something that lowers pain, but it is actually healing. It somehow has the capacity to help with regrowth within the body. It's been used in research for osteoarthritis. They found success within this, looking at compared head-to-head with placebo. And I could go on and on. It was used in it's been used since the Middle Ages. To me, it is one of the most powerful things. I suggest it all the time when some people. One more quick story. I mean, this is two very quick one. So this a friend of ours, the young lady in the video that on our YouTube channel who shows how to make the comfrey cream, she had a woman come to her who had frostbite. So the woman had, it was either, I think it was 10 years. It'll say in the video, but I think it was 10 years before the woman had frostbite, and she was suffering with nerve pain for 10 years. So she just always had this nerve pain, this nerve damage. She begins to apply the comfrey cream, and it simply goes away. She is healed after using the comfrey cream. She probably applied it multiple times, typically suggested to use it 3 times a day in a cream. And so, yeah, something to check out. There's a website for that, desertrosesisters.com, I think it is. And that's the young lady in our video who made it. I trust her because she actually makes the stuff herself, and so you're actually getting what's suggested there. And one last point on this, it's suggested by the German Commission E that you should not take it internally, and you should use it on unbroken skin. So you're applying it on unbroken skin basically for about 4 to 6 weeks out of the year. I don't mean that you need to do that all the time. And I've never heard of anybody who needed to use it 4 weeks straight because it is so powerful. You generally don't need to do that. But they suggest not to do more than 4 to 6 weeks out of the year of applying comfrey cream. Like I said, you shouldn't have to apply it because it's so powerful. Typically, you're going to find success. Not immediately always. Sometimes it can stop within a few days or several days, but comfrey. Learn about it. If you don't know about it, check out the video on Health and Homestead.
I'm going to enter into editorial commentary here, but I just wonder why I haven't seen on the news networks during the ad break, really the benefits of comfrey to solve these problems. When you pit these things against their alternatives in mainstream medicine, you find, I think, who the winner is, and there's not a lot of big money behind it. Migraines. I know I had migraines. Chad, what is the research on natural remedies for that, or maybe just what's causing it? Sometimes I think we ask the questions wrong. We're living an unhealthy life, like the way you were describing people eating junk food and ending up with more depression, anxiety, and stress in their lives, or more pain and arthritis in their lives. I know I had migraines because I was eating junk food. I was eating a bunch of sugar, refined flour, desserts, caffeine, coffee, soda, and 20 years ago, this year, My wife and I said we're cutting it all out, and my migraine stopped. So maybe I just took your thunder, and that was the answer. But I'm sure you got more. What do you have on the migraines?
No, I appreciate that because I used to have migraines too. I like you. I remember the first time that I ever got one. I was in high school. I was sitting in a typing class, and by the way, that was the most important class I took in all of school. It's been useful my whole life after that. So if you're a kid, and if they even still have such a thing, it's worth taking. But nevertheless, I was in that class, and I got what they call an aura, which is something that can often precede a migraine. And what happened is all of a sudden I started seeing this like flashing light, and then I have a blind spot. I couldn't see directly in front of me, and it's kind of scary because I never had that before. And here I am seeing this, and then finally it started to slowly fade, and then I got a migraine. That was the first time I ever had it, and just like Scott, I used to, coffee, soda, terrible diet, junk food all the time. And, whether it's high fat, high sugar, all these different things. And I suffered with migraines. And then when I went on a full whole food diet, nothing refined, and I mean nothing refined, guess what happened to the migraines? Like Scott, they went away. And so it can be just a poor diet in general. Strangely enough, for some people, some healthy foods can cause migraines, like citrus. Citrus is a common cause for certain people. That doesn't mean that citrus is a bad food because some people are allergic to it. So if you're one of the people, you could just try avoiding citrus for several weeks, see if it goes away. If it doesn't, well, then it's something else in your lifestyle. Some people, it's changing the time that they go to bed. So for instance, you go to bed at a similar time all week while you're working, and then the weekend comes and you like sleep in. Some people, they'll get migraines from that. And so there's a number of things that can cause it. I'm going to share with you a remedy, but this is the thing. The remedy is only beneficial if you get migraines. And my hope is that you don't need a remedy. So it's even better if you change the lifestyle and they just go away. So that's my hope for you. Another thing that can do it is blood sugar spikes and then drops. So exercising too far after a meal. I don't mean you want to exercise hardcore right after a meal. You don't want to do that. You want to wait an hour before you do some serious exercise. But for some people, if they go, if they have a meal and then 4 or 5 hours later they go for a run, that just the stress on the body too far after can cause a blood sugar drop. And as they have hypoglycemia, the blood sugar goes too low, they can also get a migraine. So if you can figure it out, what is causing the migraines, that's the most important thing. But one of the things, this is so powerful. So one of the most common drugs for migraines, or I shouldn't say the most common, but one of the common drugs for migraines is something called sumatriptan. And they did a study comparing head-to-head ginger with sumatriptan for migraines. So it was also a double-blind, randomized control trial. And what they did, they had 100 people who had migraines without auras. So I think, Scott, you didn't have auras with your migraines. Is that correct?
I did.
Oh, you did have them. Okay. You got them. Well, some people, I did too, and some people don't get the auras; they just get the terrible migraines. And so they had 100 people with migraines without auras. They were either given ginger or sumatriptan, and within 2 hours, both groups saw a significant decrease in migraine pain. And the benefit in both groups was statistically similar. But the trouble is, as you probably know, when it comes to drugs, there's often something that we call side effects. Some of the side effects of sumatriptan are headaches, pain in chest or tightness, pressure, heavy feeling in any part of your body, weakness, feeling hot or cold, dizziness, spinning sensation, drowsiness, nausea, vomiting. I could go on and on. But the point is, you're not going to have all of those kind of side effects for ginger. And the cool thing is you can take it in a very simple way. You can even get dried ginger super cheap. You go and buy it in the like baking section, and you can take like a quarter or an eighth of a teaspoon, and you can just mix it with water and you can drink it down. And that can be very powerful, just as good as medication. But like I said, my hope is that you'll be able to figure out what's causing it so you never have to live with migraines again. And that's what's even more important. I'll be honest with you, research has even come out on if you struggle with lust. Research, they've done 2 studies looking at people, I guess I won't use the word, but they're much more sexual when they eat ginger, and so they think about it more, and they do things to themselves sexually. And so, if you struggle with any of those kind of things, I would only use it medicinally if you need to. But something to consider. They've done two different studies on that, but medicinally, yeah, basically in the study, I think it was specifically 1/8 teaspoon. Some people may be able to handle a quarter teaspoon, and you can mix a little honey with it. It will make it taste better. It'll kind of taste like ginger ale at that point. It's actually quite tasty. It's also been shown to be beneficial for menstrual pain using the very same thing. You can use the honey with the 1/8 teaspoon of ginger for menstrual pain. So those are some things that have to do with pain.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying about we don't want to have the migraines and treat them. Let's see if we can find the cause. So try first a whole plant food diet, early to bed, early to rise, plenty of hydration, not exercising excessively at the wrong times, and see if those things actually solve your problem. Then you don't have to worry about, getting the ginger and salt and I got another migraine. I mean, do that for a couple of weeks and see if the migraines resolve. By the way, if you get off of caffeine and sugar and refined food and junk food, you're gonna have headaches for 3 days. So don't be like, this doesn't work, one day in, because you feel miserable because your body's detoxing. Now you've got some stuff on parasites too, and I don't know that a lot of the audience is like, oh yeah, I've got parasites. Are there sometimes some symptoms associated with parasites where people don't know they have them? Or do we sometimes have them, we don't even see symptoms, but we might want to work on, maybe there's parasites, let me do this. And then, of course, the question for you is, how do you deal with parasites with natural remedies?
Good question. Parasites they're more common than people realize. Research suggests that millions of Americans probably have parasites. One of the common ones that many people have heard of is Toxoplasma gondii, which is a parasite that's often found in cat feces. And that's why you may have heard that when women are pregnant, they specifically suggest that women don't take out the cat litter, that they don't clean the cat litter, because they may be exposing themselves to Toxoplasma gondii. And the result of that, if they are ingesting it while they're pregnant, it can damage them even when they're not pregnant. But if they are pregnant, the fear is that it can impact their offspring in two different ways. It can potentially increase rates of schizophrenia and the chances that the child will be born blind. I know a family specifically that had this situation. I mean, they don't know for sure, but one of the children is schizophrenic, the other one is blind, and they did have a cat in the home. It's likely, I'm not judging anybody for that. Cats can be wonderful pets to play with and so forth, but the cat litter can be a problem. Now, that's one specific that's very common even in the United States. There's various. Now, I am not someone who thinks that everybody has parasites all the time, and you should be terrified that you have parasites. This is back to the point of where God often has the remedy in the area that you live. Parasites are more common around equatorial areas of the planet, right? You look historically at that ribbon around the earth. The closer you get to the equator, the warmer regions of the earth, historically people were more prone to parasites in those regions. It makes sense, it's warmer, and parasites are often going to thrive better in these areas. And interestingly, that there's a certain plant that grows in many, if not most, of the areas of the earth, at least now in Earth's history, is papayas. And not papaya itself, but specifically in the papaya, you have those black papaya seeds that are inside of there. Most people don't eat them, and I don't suggest that you eat them on a regular basis. Now, papaya, sure, there's nothing wrong with eating papaya on a regular basis. I don't suggest that you eat papaya seeds on a regular basis, but back to the question of how many. So specifically, when I mentioned how many people have Toxoplasma gondii, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the U.S., suggests that 40 million people in the United States have Toxoplasma gondii. So that's more than like 10% of people. That's significant. And that's only one parasite, not to mention potentially others that could be. It was an older study I should remember where it was found, but I can't recall off the top of my head, but it was an older study that in the United States, it was that somewhere around 17 to 19%, I don't remember the exact number, 17 to 19% of men in the United States had the parasite that is commonly found in pigs. And my mind had just drew a blank, the name of it. Trichina larvae, the trichina larvae. And this, which can give you trichinosis, which is fascinating. What it does, you eat it. As you eat the swine, the pig, it can be in the flesh, and as you eat it, what happens is it can have the eggs inside of it. It goes into you. These eggs will hatch, and then you have these little larvae burrowing through your body. And as they burrow through, they can die like on your elbow or something like that. And so you start to have like an achy joint, and you think your doctor says, "Oh, you have arthritis," because yeah, I mean, that's probably what you have. I mean, that's likely what you have. And sometimes it's not that. It's like as that parasite died there, it leaves a calcified cyst. And so now you're getting pain as a result of it. And so there's a number of things I would just avoid. Pork's just not a healthy food, folks. That's very clear. So just if you're going to eat meat, of which I don't, I wouldn't eat the pork. But nevertheless, so back to the question of, is there anything we can do for parasites? Now, this is specifically for the parasites that are found in the stool. It may work for other areas of the body. I don't know for sure, but there's one particular study. A study was reported in the Journal of Medicinal Food, and they took 60 Nigerian children who had parasites in their stool. So they analyzed the stool of 60 kids, and they divided these 60 kids up into two groups. One group of 30, they gave them as a placebo honey, and the other group would have 4 grams of dried papaya seeds mixed with honey. So it's kind of funny because it's a test where you use the placebo with the actual remedy itself. But what's interesting is what they found is that 16.7% of the children who took the honey cleared the parasites. So is it placebo effect? Probably not, because honey actually is something that may be anti-parasitic. It can be antibacterial, various things. But what they found is those who took the 4 grams of dried papaya seeds, 76.7% of them cleared their parasites, which I find to be fascinating. It's incredible that 76, and that's just one application. That's taking it one time. Often, if you're taking some kind of pills, you're going to be taking them day after day after day, maybe for a couple of weeks, and then finally they'll clear it. This is one time taking dried papaya seeds. My wife and I, sometimes if we go to kind of a third world country where I have kind of a weak stomach, so I'm prone to getting stomach trouble in these countries, we dry our own papaya seeds. And if I get sick, I'll take charcoal typically if I get a stomach ache, but I'll also take some dried papaya seeds. Don't take them all the time. I know there's people who are constantly afraid they have every disease out there, and they'll take them every day. They can have negative side effects if you take them regularly. You don't want to do it. Don't do it regularly. Only use it if there's a real reason to believe, or I mean, if you do it once, it's not a big deal, but don't go like, oh, I have parasites, I better take these things every day. No, don't worry about it. It's not something you have to worry about constantly. I know there's some people who have kind of a fear there.
I like how all the answers are natural. I mean, that's our theme today. If you're just joining us, folks, it's Natural Remedies with Chad Cruiser of Health and Homestead YouTube channel. And I've got one more question for Chad. He has a wealth of information with each of these questions. And then we're going to go to your questions. So have them ready to go, and do scan that QR code. Follow Chad's work over at Health and Homestead, dealing with many topics in addition to natural remedies, from homesteading and preparedness and growing things to other health tips. And I really value the wealth of content there. And you also mentioned charcoal. You want to have that handy. That helps to clear things that are coming through your gut, or you can put it externally on. Use it for bug bites and bee stings and things like that. But Chad, my last question for you is, I mean, we've been dealing with kind of, mental conditions and other things, but what the biggest disease that's killing people is heart disease, and of course diabetes right along with it. I think you're going to have the same answer for both of these, so I'll bundle them together. Heart disease and diabetes, we don't normally think of natural remedies like here's this herb that will help, but what kind of lifestyle changes do we need to be making to help reverse those? And it really is a natural remedy for the disease then.
Great question. I noticed you just posted, check out Barbara O'Neill's new book. Now, I want to touch on that. I know that people have used her and they have acted like, oh, Barbara O'Neill promotes my thing, my supplement or something like that. And I've had people do that with me too, that they rip off my YouTube video or something and act like I'm promoting their thing. And so if you're buying something, and I don't just, not just because like I don't make money off of Comfrey. I know somebody that does, and I promote them because I really genuinely believe it. They did a study out of the state of New York and found that 80% of supplements from the top 4 carriers, 80% of them had 0% of what they suggested. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Sure is.
Unbelievable. And so getting something from a reputable source is important. And so I just see the advertisement for the book, and I know that's not a supplement per se, but I just want to say, if you're going to buy something, try to get it from a reputable source. Even if it's a few bucks extra, to me, it's like, yeah, you could save money and have an 80, maybe an 80% chance of it being nothing. I'd rather pay a few bucks more and know that I'm getting it from a reputable source, or grow it yourself and make it yourself. And so we're actually just about to do some of that, making some Comfrey salve right here at home. But back to the question of heart disease and diabetes, it actually largely, we're talking type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is generally not fully reversible. There is some stem cell research that's been done that's actually been able to reverse it. And that would be awesome if people could, fully reverse it. Sometimes if they change the diet immediately to a whole food, non-refined, plant-based diet, immediately after a child comes down with type 1, there have been cases where it is reversed by a whole food, plant-based diet immediately. But if you've had it for months, it's likely not going to go away unless they figure out the stem cell thing. But when it comes to type 2 diabetes and heart disease, it is true that largely the same thing. The only research that has solidly shown an actual reversal of heart disease, there's 2 major studies by Esselstyn and Ornish, 2 different studies. And they found the same thing, that a whole food, plant-based diet that is low in fat. So you're not eating a bunch of nuts. Now, nuts are good for you, but even too many nuts for someone who's compromised, you want to keep it no more than, they suggest no more than like a handful a day. They're not bad for you. They're wonderful for you, actually, but just not overdoing it. So it was a low fat, plant-based diet. And it can reverse angina. The amazing thing is they did research, Ornish did a study where they put people on this diet, and 90% of people will fully reverse angina. What's angina? It's the crippling, crushing chest pain. People say it feels like an elephant is standing on your chest. You go for a walk and you're just, oh, my chest. Well, imagine going every day. You go for a walk, you go 10 steps and you're in crushing chest pain. And 90% of people can fully reverse that in like 3 weeks just by going on this diet. So you're not talking like you got to go on this thing for like 6 months or 10 years to feel the difference. You do have to stick with it if you want to keep the benefit. But the point is, you can start feeling so good rapidly right after this. And so a low fat.
Chad, what is the diet? You were just about to say. I'm like, say it again. What is that? I mean, it's not like you're going on a diet. It's a new lifestyle for you. What is that diet again?
Yes, so it is the diet that I had to go on I had gallbladder issues, and it's the same diet that can reverse gallstones. And amazingly, so going on this diet, what it is basically going on whole plant foods. And when I say whole, I really mean whole, like eating the olives instead of refining them, eating the nuts instead of, I don't know, you're basically eating whole foods. You can, if you want to cook them, you can cook them. If you want them raw, you can eat them raw, but you can make them in recipes and so forth. But it's a low fat, plant-based diet with only plants in that case. And they've been able to reverse, in most cases, it completely arrests the disease. And many of the people, it begins to actually open up the dilating the blood vessels, and it can, in many cases, actually begin to reverse the disease. It's a disease that takes years to progress initially, and it takes years to reverse it also. But this diet, now I want to give you one of the primary problems that can cause heart disease is high blood pressure. I'll give you a natural remedy that you can do to lower blood pressure, and that is, you probably know of flax seeds. by taking flax seeds and grinding them up, they found that taking 2 tablespoons of flax seeds daily can often lower blood pressure as much as a blood pressure lowering medication. And, super cheap, and you're not going to have any side effects. Probably the only side effect is going to be that it's going to help you go number 2 a little better. And that's a good side effect rather than a bad side effect. So that's one thing that you can do. There's really another thing that can lower blood pressure. It is a natural remedy, but it's not something you have to take. It's exercise. Even if all you can do is walk, the days now, somebody like Scott or myself, we probably need either plenty of walking to get good exercise, or we need something more vigorous. But whether it's walking, in my case, it'd be going for a jog or a run, or if it's lifting weights or doing body weight exercises, calisthenics, what researchers have discovered is that the day that you do them, after you exercise, you will have a lower blood pressure for the rest of the day, but it will go away the next day. So if you think, I exercised today, I'm done, I don't need to do it tomorrow. Well, no, you'll only get the benefit today. So you need to do it daily. And that's, Scott spoke to this earlier. It's not about going on a diet. I use the word diet, but it is a new lifestyle. And here's the thing too, any new lifestyle, says in the book of Hebrews, basically, that all discipline at first seems not pleasant, but painful, but afterward it yields the fruit of righteousness to those who are exercised thereby. And so, meaning, when you first start some new habit, it's hard, you don't like it, maybe you get like sore because you worked out or whatever it is, but once it becomes a habit in time, you actually love it and you don't want to miss it. You feel so good. They asked these men they asked the people rather who went on Esselstyn's diet, which is this low-fat, plant-based diet, eating plenty of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and low-fat. What they found is that these people started feeling so good. They had so much energy. They just totally changed. And one other side effect, they also share, is that the men began to, these are old guys, and they struggled with impotence. But when they went on this diet, as old men with heart disease, their impotence went away. And you can imagine they really enjoyed that. And so their lives were, and so people say, yeah, but Chad, that's such an extreme diet. That's very extreme. Kind of, but it's also extreme to have someone cut your chest open. That's a little bit extreme, you might say, right? And taking all kinds of drugs with all kinds of side effects that may cause impotence, right? And so that's a bit extreme too. And I'm not telling you what to do with drugs or not do with them. You get the idea. But the point is, we all have to make decisions in life. Some people will do anything it takes to change their lifestyle, and some people want to do nothing. But I'm guessing if people are watching this channel right now, they're not the kind of people who are like, oh, I'm not willing to do anything. You're here because you're like, hey, what's it take to help me out? If something's wrong, I'm going to do it. And that is something that when you have that mindset, your life can be changed. You can find the benefits of it. I had gallbladder issues. I went on the exact same diet that's been shown. By the way, this also works for type 2 diabetes, that between 95 and 100% of people that go on a whole food, plant-based diet with nothing refined, no sugar, no refined foods whatsoever, will totally get off all medication and have normal blood pressure when it comes to
blood sugar.
Not blood sugar, thank you. When it comes to blood sugar issues. So most people can fully reverse it, especially if you're not eating between meals. If you will cut out eating between meals, eat 2 or at most 3 meals a day. And if you're going to skip a meal, it's better to skip the evening meal than it is the breakfast meal. There's actually negative side effects from skipping breakfast and having lunch and dinner instead. But there's benefits to having just 2 meals, morning and, kind of maybe a late lunchtime. But if you have to do 3 meals a day, you want to make the last meal light. But the vast majority of people will reverse their type 2 diabetes, 95 to 100%. Dr. McDougall says 100% of his patients, when they went on his diet, would reverse it. But it's Dean Ornish says somewhere around 95 or so. But 95 to 100% of people can reverse these issues. And we've watched, we had an 80-year-old man come to a seminar that I was doing, and there's something called neuropathy, where it can be pain in the extremities, like fingers and toes. This guy came 80 years old, overweight, depressed, type 2 diabetes, and neuropathy. For him, they often say it feels like you're walking on razor blades. And he goes and he ends up, he implements, 80 years old. He comes to our seminar, immediately starts implementing what we're suggesting. And he comes back, and within 2 weeks, he said the neuropathy, basically, he had to keep his feet outside of the sheets and just had to have his bare feet sitting outside the sheets because it felt like they were being burned with a red hot iron when they were touched by the sheets. But long story short, what he said was, he said within 2 days, it started to go away, the pain. And within 2.5 weeks, he said it was 99% gone. And that is normal. That is normal for people who go on this diet. And there's nothing that medicine can do except recover the pain, but it doesn't get rid of the pain. But the good thing is this can actually heal the problem that is causing the issue and begin to get good blood flow to the extremities again so that they don't have to suffer with this for the rest of their life.
I love what you said about how these physicians are doing this. This isn't a theory. This isn't, the McDougall and Ornish and Living Springs Retreat. They're doing these similar things, and people see results in the enormous quantities and proportions, upwards of 100%. And so, it's hard to be like, okay, I'm going to only eat fruits, vegetables, moderate nuts and seeds and whole grains and beans, legumes, etc. That's hard to make that transition, but once you're there, I love what you said, Chad, that you feel so good. And when you're living an active lifestyle and all the other pieces of the puzzle with the water and the sunlight and the fresh air and the good sleep routines. And by the way, we eat as a family at 8 a.m. or 7:45 a.m. and 2:15 p.m. So the 2 meal plan, I love it. I don't want to go back. And so one of the things, when you said the thing about the happiness, eh, I don't actually think like, oh no, I'm going to get heart disease. It's kind of this distant thing. It's a risk factor. But once I noticed in my life that I was happier when I ate these foods and lived this way, and less happy when I ate those foods, the junk foods, and lived that way, I'm way, way, way more motivated just on the depression, anxiety. And I didn't have a condition that was diagnosed, but you just feel yourself getting happier. You're like, I started calling fruit my happy pills. It's just like, I want to have a great day. And you know me, Chad, I'm generally a good natured, happy person. I wasn't prone to depression, but everybody, think of it as like on a spectrum. It's not like just the diagnosis in the extreme cases of a really struggling person with anxiety or depression or whatever, but everybody's on the spectrum somewhere. You might be way over here, pretty happy person, but you can become even happier, enjoy your life even more. So you look at the junk food, and those are depression, causers. And so let's go to the Q&A. People have questions about the remedies you've been bringing up. Please advise on epileptic seizures for children, please. Thank you, Saren Subo.
So there's two potential things that you can do. And so the most popular one today, and it's actually for probably 100 years or so, the most popular one is putting people on a ketogenic diet, which is a very high fat diet, is a common way that has been shown to be beneficial. There can be all kinds of side effects as a result of that. And if it's the only option, if you've tried everything else, that is absolutely an option. But there are also people who find that there's something in the diet of the individual that is causing the issue. And so it can be sometimes, I'm not, like I said, there about 6% of people struggle with gluten. You could try going gluten free. That's absolutely an option. I would fully 100% get sugar out of the diet. When I say sugar, I mean refined sugar, not fruits and so forth. But meaning refined sugar, I would fully get that out of the diet. You could also do something called the elimination challenge diet. And if you have any interest in that, I could send you an email on how to do that. My email is anchorpointfilms, anchor, like a boat anchor, then the word point, POINT. It's not British, no E on the end. Anchorpointfilms@gmail.com. If you want to know about that, I could send you just a free, just little write up on how to do the elimination challenge diet, because sometimes it's a food in the body that the food that you eat that in your body specifically, or that child's body, can be tweaking the body enough that they go into these epileptic seizures. So I would try 100%. I know it seems hardcore, but you're not eating any candy. You're not eating, cookies and sugary things whatsoever. I mean, you could have dates or you could have these kind of things, and see if you can reverse it with just a super healthy, whole food, non-refined diet. You may have to give up the gluten. You may not. If it doesn't go away with the gluten, then that's probably not the issue. It's up to you. But by getting rid of these things and going on just doing that may work. If that doesn't work, you could try the elimination diet, which is basically you're avoiding some of the most common allergens for a month. And if it goes away within that month, that means something in the diet of the things you're avoiding for that month are probably causing the problem. And so then you add each one of them back, like citrus. Citrus is good for most people, but you avoid it for a month because it can cause issues for some people. And then a month later, you add the citrus fruit back in, and then you don't eat any additional food from the no-go list for the next 3 to 5 days. But let's say you eat some citrus, and then within the next day your child has another seizure. Well, then you think, well, maybe it was citrus. It's probably not, but I'm just giving that example. But if it doesn't, then you can add the next one back. Like you can add almonds back, and almonds are good for most everybody, but nuts can sometimes trigger these things. And so the point is going on a super healthy diet. If that works, great. And giving your child, and also having them avoid media, because all these flashing lights may be something that's too stimulating for your child. So avoiding those things, giving them and you think, man, life would be terrible without media. Actually, no, life will be way better without the media. Now, for a few days, it's going to be terrible. They're going to hate life for a few days. And then within just, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks, they're going to be happier than they've ever been. So avoiding those kind of things, getting adequate exercise, eating at very regimented times so they don't get blood sugar drops. Those are a few things. But like I said, anchorpointfilms@gmail.com if you want me to send you information on the elimination challenge diet. It's just a temporary diet and figuring out what might be causing the issue. But like I said, if your child is having, if they're having terrible, terrible continual seizures, the one diet that has commonly worked, sometimes a plant-based diet will do the trick, but other times it's been the keto diet. I don't suggest that unless someone absolutely has to do the ketogenic diet.
What's our next question? Let's bring it up on the screen. Thank you, Chad. That's very helpful. That's a sad thing for a child, and I really appreciate your heart and your wisdom on that for that individual. Being an athlete, I drink almost a gallon per day. Chad, do you have a comment on that? Is that recommended? Is there any concern about electrolytes, maybe adding something to the water?
Yeah, good question. Good question. So, if you do, some people. So if you're an athlete, it's very common for athletes to drink a gallon or so a day, and generally that's not a problem. There are certain people who they will lower their electrolytes, and the way that you can avoid lowering them or getting them too low. I'm one of the people who can get actually low sodium. Most people have to lower their sodium in their diet. I have to add sodium, or it runs in my family. It's a strange thing. Grandpa was in the hospital with low sodium. My uncle was, and I've had my blood tested and been low in it. Most people are not like me, but if you are, one of the things you can do is you can put like a quarter teaspoon or so of salt in about a quart of water, and you won't even taste it hardly at all. It's not like drinking, you're thinking like ocean water or salt water. It's not going to be like that. It's so minimal that but that's only if you can go have blood work tested one day, and if you exercise that day and your blood levels of sodium are just fine, you probably don't have to worry about it. You're probably getting enough in your diet that you're not going to have low sodium. So it can be a great amount of water for an exerciser. For someone who's not exercising, they probably don't need that much water. It's one of the things that's suggested is like half your body weight in ounces. If we're talking weight here, we're talking about, if you're 100 pounds, it'd be 50 ounces. You're 200 pounds, around 100 ounces. I think you get the idea there. But yeah, that can be perfectly fine as long as you don't have any negative side effects.
I've thought about the quantity of water that I take in, and to me, it's so variable depending on how hot you are and how much you're exerting, how much you're sweating. So you're
Yes.
wanting to replace. So the best way, I think, Chad, tell me what you think about this, to determine the quantity of water is to gauge it by by what you see in the toilet. You know, is it bright yellow? Is it dark yellow? Or are we heading to that pale side of the spectrum and it looks more like water than like a dark yellow color? Then you're doing right, right? You're
Yeah,
doing well,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. You're exactly right. So if it's super dark yellow, you're probably dehydrated at that point,
Yeah.
and you want it to be, you know, close to clear. A little tiny bit of color is fine, because you can overdo it if it's, you know, it's purely water. You might be overdoing it. You may not. You may be perfectly fine if you never get too low, but you want to get as close to clear. You know, it's obviously when you wake up, if you've slept, you know, 8 hours or something like that, you're probably going to have some yellow urine because you are a bit
Yeah.
dehydrated. And that's one of the things that wakes us up in the
Yeah.
morning is water. So you're absolutely right, Scott.
Yeah, in the morning it's a different story. But thank you to the comment. Somebody's echoing what Chad was saying earlier about lemon balm and anxiety and other mental health challenges. Let's go to another question. We're going to fire through these quick. We want to get a lot of them in. Quick question. Anything you suggest for increasing testosterone? Chad, what do you say about that?
Yeah, good question. So um, I'm trying to think if I know any studies specifically on testosterone. Um, that's a good question. I have looked into it a bit, and I'm drawing a blank at this moment.
Oh, can I ask
Obviously,
you this? If
yes.
you're eating soybeans and natural soybean products, like in the store at LSR, they've got those soy curls, and I hear like soy is going to make you a woman and you're going to have, you know, you're going to lose your masculinity and testosterone. You're going to grow tissue where women have it and men don't want it on their chest. What's the word on testosterone and soy?
I did a video on my YouTube channel on, you know, will soy give me man breasts? Because that's the great fear in
Yeah.
life. One of the greatest fears of humans is eating soy. And you know, I'm exaggerating here, but it's interesting because soy does have something called phytoestrogens. And the word phyto is PHYTO, and that means plant estrogens. And you think, oh man, as a dude, I don't want to be getting estrogen in me. And as a woman, you think, man, I don't want excessive estrogen in me either. And so I probably should avoid it so I don't get things like breast cancer. But what's very interesting is research shows that women who consume more soy have lower breast cancer levels. And by the way, it doesn't, I go through the research, it does not cause man breasts. That is something that's simply not true. But when it comes to the women, it's interesting because phytoestrogens are a mimicker of estrogen. And it seems that women who consume more of them actually have lower levels of cancer because it can actually replace some of the estrogen in the body, and as a result actually enhance their health. Like for instance, Japanese women eat 7 to 9 times more soy than Americans do, yet have significantly less cancer than Americans do. So it doesn't seem to be working if it's causing the problems. You don't see it to the same degree that you do in the United States. And so I'm trying to think. I should know more on testosterone, but I don't have any things off the top of my head, but I should. And shame on me. I should have been ready for that one. So I apologize.
You're like 99 out of 100. I'll give that an A. What about 21-day fasting, Beth says?
Wow. Well, I do have a friend who went around 30 days. I would not suggest super long fastings for people who are thin. If you're seriously overweight and you want to go to, there's a place called True North in California where they help you do this. Not really even that expensive to go there. It's like, I don't know, $200 a night or something, a little bit more than a hotel. I could be wrong on the price, but I don't think it's that really that expensive where like they monitor you so that you're actually doing okay for a fast. If you need to for some specific reason, there can be benefits to doing it. I don't suggest people go on super long fasts like that generally. I really don't think people should try 40 days like Jesus did. Jesus did that for us, and we don't need to go out and do that. But myself, I do like to go on short fasts from time to time. I just did one probably within the last week, I think I did. And I like to do a simple fast, but I'm relatively thin, so I don't overdo it by doing them all the time. If I were overweight, I would do it more often because I actually like to fast. But I wouldn't, without like being under some kind of medical provision, personally, I wouldn't suggest something like a 21-day fast. But like I said, I had a friend who did a medically supervised fast for around 30 days, but he was obese when he began. And so it was perfectly fine for him. And so, uh, yeah, be careful with super long fasts.
There's an element really in fasting that is detoxing, and you can learn a very specific detox program that can accomplish what you want to accomplish. So, Jed, do you have a quick comment on comfrey as a natural fertilizer?
Yeah, people use it around, some people grow it right around fruit trees so that it can basically compost right on site as the leaves die off. It can be used for that. It's commonly used, it's a phenomenal fertilizer. So using it for plants, you could even just cut the leaves, compost them somewhere, put them down where you're going to grow your food. It is also a great fertilizer also.
Awesome. Next question. Maggie asks, will the comfrey help degenerative back disease?
I can't guarantee that it will. I don't sell the stuff, so I have no like financial reason to promote it. It's just to me, one of the most powerful remedies that I know of, and the research backs it up. Like study after study, you can go. I have two videos on my channel talking about it. One is showing you how to make it. The other one is going through the scientific research, and I absolutely would try it personally. And I'm not just trying to promote them; they give me nothing for it. But DesertRoseSisters.com, I know they make it legit. They do not use like rotten comfrey. They use it really well. DesertRoseSisters.com. I would absolutely personally give it a try. Is it going to work? I have no idea. I can't guarantee that, but to me, it's the kind of thing. It's called bone knit because I mean, it's not going to typically like put bones that shouldn't grow together like you're not going to all of a sudden have a stiff leg that doesn't move after using comfrey because it grew your bones together. But as far as actually damaged portions of the body, it can often do almost miraculous things. I know that specifically Barbara O'Neill talks about, she had hurt her shoulder, worked on her shoulder. They talked about she was going to need surgery. She didn't need surgery after using it on, I think it was a damaged muscle. So the point is, this stuff is powerful both in the research and in many anecdotal individual stories. So it's probably worth a try.
Thank you, Margie. Next question from Pamelia. I have Achilles heel and a knot coming out. I'm thinking it's a bone spur. I've been applying comfrey and castor oil, and she makes that for herself. What do you think about that, Chad?
I would try. I think both of those things would be a great option. And like I said, I have no idea where you got your comfrey cream, so you want to make sure. Or if you're growing it yourself, you could either use. I mean, you can even buy like comfrey root itself, where you can buy the actual. I just bought some yesterday. I have it growing outside. I probably didn't need to buy any. It was just a situation where it's probably easier to buy. I can keep the plants growing and use the leaves here at home. I don't use the roots, although they're more powerful. But if you get the roots, you could get them wet, apply them right to it. Like while you're maybe sleeping at night for the night, it could be kind of just soaking in, have that transdermal power going into the skin. It's worth a try. I can't guarantee it, but I think that's one of the things, specifically the young lady in the video when I recorded her. She was 16 years old. This is not like some little charlatan. She'd give this away, and she had these amazing testimonies of these people that she would just give it to. She gave it to these one folks, and literally the next day, their brother came and he's like, I saw what happened to my brother. I want to get some of that from you. And so I would try. I think the castor oil and the comfrey, I think it's a great option to try.
Great. And folks, watch the video on comfrey at Health and Homestead YouTube channel. Thank you for that question. Christy asks, can castor oil help heal blood clots in the brain and stroke damage in the brain?
That I have no idea. So I have looked into some of the research on castor oil, but I can't give you a yay or nay with that one. It's probably not going to hurt, by applying it to the head. I've put it on my head before, but not for some kind of massive damage or anything. But why not? You could absolutely try it. I can't say that it's going to work or not. So.
All right, thanks, Chad. Next question is Rodalens asking just saying, amazing, thanks for your insights. Thank you, Rodalens. And Teresa, help for reducing debilitating migraines. Thank you. Mine were bad when I had them. I'll tell you what, getting off the caffeine, the sugar, the refined flour, the anything that's not whole plant foods, try that. Try it for 10 days. And what Chad said earlier as well about that ginger, give that a try. In addition to that, if they continue to come back, I think Chad's given the comments on that. Unless you forgot to say something about that, Chad, that you want to say now, I'll go to the next one. S asks, what do you guys say about black seed oil?
Well, I, they've supposedly done some research on black seed oil with COVID, and you know, there may have been a study that showed a benefit. I think there's another study that did not show any benefit. But here's the trouble, too. Sometimes, and we kind of learned this during COVID, that sometimes studies are done with the purpose of disproving something. So you give people not enough of something, or you do it at the wrong time, and you're like, look, it doesn't work,
Something
So
that starts with the letter I, maybe.
and that could, yes, that could be. And so I don't know for sure if it works or not. For something like COVID, it's suggested that it does. I wouldn't overdo it, but it's probably not the worst thing in the world to try. But once again, even when it comes to the big C, I would suggest living a very healthy lifestyle. There have been different studies that have been done on diet. There was a study done, I think it was 8 different countries, like the United States, England, I think it was Spain, and I don't remember the other countries, but they looked at dietary patterns of people. And long story short, what they found is the people who were on the plant-based diet had like 4 times less chance of coming down with significant COVID or moderate to severe COVID. And so lifestyle is the most important once again. And there are times to do the remedies for sure. But I would say live a really healthy lifestyle day by day. Get out in the sun, get your exercise, get your vitamin D, eat a plant-based diet, and have your immune system functioning so that when we're hit with things. But I don't know a lot of research on black seed oil.
Next question. It is from Jules. How do you balance your hormones, Chad? Is that a
Well,
female question, Jules? I'm guessing that's female.
I'm just going to give a little suggestion. It's a little hard to say because that's a little bit vague because I don't know who this is asking that question. And it also depends on like your age. I mean, for instance, for women after menopause, one of the most powerful things is shown to be the thing people are terrified of often is soy. Soy can be very beneficial after menopause. Many women, and you look at, in places like Japan, women have like very low levels of having things like hot flashes, where it's like just so common in the Western world. And you think, well, maybe it's genetic. But the thing is, when these Japanese move to the United States, they get the same problems we do. It's funny. Like there's a force field over the ocean. When you pass over, you get all these diseases. Well, it's not a force field, it's a lifestyle. And so the lifestyle that they live over there makes them less likely to come down with these things. So that's maybe after menopause. When it comes to maybe women who are of childbearing age, we could maybe say, simply often living a whole food, often women who have terrible menstrual issues, by going on a low fat, whole food plant-based diet similar to the Esselstyn diet or the Dean Ornish diet, often their terrible PMS issues or the pain and the suffering that they go through, often it just goes away at that point. And so that's one of the ways that it can help balance their hormones. So low fat can often, what's happening is people are eating a lot of fat. They hear about, good fat, good fat, good fat. And so they eat tons and tons of good fat, but you want to even be moderate, even in good things. And so just a low fat plant-based diet has been shown to often even reverse menstrual issues. So hopefully that's helpful.
Awesome. Should we take castor oil by mouth? How much?
So I cannot say for sure. I do know that it's one of the most common things in the United States for, not in the medical system, but specifically in the women who help deliver babies, like in the home. What do you call those ladies? I should know.
Midwives.
Midwives, thank you. Shame on me. It's one of the most common things given by midwives to help women have their babies. And I do think they take it internally by mouth. They give it to them at that point. But I would be careful, and don't just trust me because I said that. Look that one up. Do your own research on that one. But I think they do actually give it by mouth at that point. I don't know that you want to take it all the time. So I'm not going to give a definitive answer on that. I'm going to tell you to do your own research, look into it, And if you're pregnant, you want to know very well that it's okay rather than just listening to a guy on the internet. You want to make sure that something's safe.
That was our last question for tonight. If we didn't get to yours, save it. We'll keep talking with you all, but we're going to wrap up for tonight. One more time, we're very thankful for Chad, the time you've given to us, and I hope everybody who's gleaned even one little bit from this really thorough and power-packed information hour and 20 minutes we've had together. You got to get over to that YouTube channel, Health and Homestead. Watch more of Chad's content, share it, and our producer, Christian Digital Network, CDN. Thank you, Jeremy and the team, for making this production possible. So, folks, CDN, it's from likes to lives changed. Scan that QR code, subscribe to CDN as well on their YouTube. And we love each one of you. We're thankful that you are a part of this community, of this movement of improving our lives, blessing others with this content and information, reaching out to those who are in need, who are struggling. Your heart is contagious, and we are with you all in your health journey to support you to a better lifestyle, to choices that will relieve you from the afflictions that are burdening so many. So that's all. I'm Scott Ritzema, your host. I'm your LSR Live host. We'll see you next time.